Now we go to our Romanian. I am patriotic because I think Saul Steinberg was a force in art, and not just in art, but also in culture in general. And although generally I don't like cartoons so much, and he might be considered some kind of a cartoonist, but it's not true. Yes, the language has elements of, cartoon-like, but there is much more to it. He was a philosopher. He actually described himself as being a writer who draws, and a very sophisticated man. Let's read a little bit about him, because he was born on this day, June 15th. Saul Steinberg was a Romanian-American artist. I took this text from Wikipedia. Best known for his work for The New Yorker, most notably View of the World from the Ninth Avenue. He described himself as a writer who draws, as I just said. So Saul Steinberg was born on June 15th in 1914. So that's exactly 108 years ago, and died in 1999. Steinberg was born in Râmnicul Sărat, Buzău County, Romania, to a family of Jewish descent. In 1932, he entered the University of Bucharest. So he was born in 1914, and at 18, he entered the University of Bucharest. In 1933, he enrolled at the Polytechnic University of Milan in Italy to study architecture. He received his degree in 1940. In 1936, he began contributing cartoons to the humor newspaper Bertoldo. 2 years later, the anti-Semitic racial laws promulgated by the fascist government forced him to start seeking refuge in another country. In 1941, he fled to the Dominican Republic, where he spent a year awaiting a US visa. By then, his drawings had appeared in several US periodicals. His first contribution to the New Yorker was published in October 1941. Steinberg arrived in New York City in July 1942. Within a few months, he received a commission in the US Naval Reserve, and was then seconded to the Office of Strategic Services. He worked for the Morale Operations Division in China, North Africa, and Italy. Shipped back to Washington in 1944, he married the Romanian-born painter Hedda Stern. After World War II, Steinberg continued to publish drawings in the New Yorker and other periodicals, including Fortune, Vogue, Mademoiselle, and Harper's Bazaar. At the same time, he embarked on an exhibition career in galleries and museums. In 1946, he was included in the critically acclaimed 14 Americans show at the Museum of Modern Art, New York, exhibiting along with Arshil Gorky, Isamu Noguchi, and Robert Motherwell, among others. Not a little honor, again, to be one of the 14 Americans in 1946, and he arrived just a few years earlier in the United States. Anyway, among others, Steinberg went on to have more than 81 artist shows in galleries and museums throughout the US, Europe, and South America. He was affiliated with Betty Parsons and Sidney Yanis galleries in New York and the Gallery Met in Paris. A dozen museums and institutions have in-depth collections of his work, and examples are included in the holdings of more than 80 other public collections. This was the man. And we think that, the one who makes cartoons must be a happy man. He doesn't look like a happy man. He looks like a rather stern man, concerned, even anxious. But I like the picture, this is the man, and he had genius. This man had genius in his own way. I'm far from being an expert in cartoons, but his work is not really cartoons at all. He was a philosopher, and actually he expressed his philosophy through drawing and his vision of the world. And he was very intense, very prolific, and very hard to pin down, because people don't even know today, don't quite know where to place him, you know, in what artistic current and so on. He was unique. Um, Another picture of him, and again, you look at a man, you know, born in Râmnicul Sărat, uh, you know, rather intense and serious. Despite the fact that, yes, he's unveiling, you know, his chest with that curious, you know, figure there. Interesting man. I like Saul Steinberg, I confess. Um, Otherwise, usually I'm not very turned on by cartoons, but his work is not just that. It's more to it. His work is even described as being expressionist. You know, I mean, expressionism in a way is the very opposite of cartoons. He was also a surrealist. I like the way he described himself, a writer who draws. So, Saul Steinberg, he made collages, he made all kinds of things. And here I only include some images from his work. You can easily find 500 or 1,000 pictures for an unending PowerPoint presentation. Very, very imaginative. Some people talked about the labyrinth of Saul Steinberg, because yes, there is, you know, even he in the coiffure of this lady. But I think he had an uncanny ability to portray psychological states in a humorous, but not only humorous way. Look at this, you know, a dialogue between a man and a woman. I love it, you know, because he really brings together the, you know, in a way, the essence of so many conflicts and misunderstandings, you know, between man and woman. He talks, you know, man, he talks in, you know, in triangles and geometrical figures, while she talks in a more fluid way, you know, more Art Nouveau, so to speak. So two different languages, and they are supposed to come to a common ground, and often they do not do. I like this drawing very much. Then here it is. You see the ministru. This is, look, this was his passport. He had troubles when, you know, obviously bureaucratic troubles like many of us. And this was the passport when he was a student. You see here, de professione, student, călătorind, voyageant. He was going to Milan. But he looked almost, I mean, look at him. He looked very mature. He was 18, 19, the most 20. But this I noticed also when I contemplate the baccalaureate photograph of my father, you know, at 18, he looked much more mature than I did or my colleagues at the same age. There was something, I don't know very well how to explain it. Anyway, Saul Steinberg, born in Râmnicul Sărat, and you know, he probably had troubles with passports and with documents and so on. And I know something about those troubles too. When you enter the labyrinth of bureaucracy or the, you know, Kafkian castle, you know, it's you need a way to remain sane, and his way was to draw. Now, diplomas. I told you he did graduate from the School of Architecture in Milan, the Polytechnic in Milan, but for some reason, perhaps because of the troubles he had with his passports and documents and bureaucracy to immigrate, he created this series of diplomas, you know. And let us not forget, we are in a country which values diplomas a lot, you know, I mean, and doctorates. That's why Andrei Pleșu said, you know, maybe at birth, every Romanian should receive a doctorate. I love these diplomas by Saul Steinberg. I mean, you know, look at those signatures. You know, they are humorous. You know, they are not real. These are called fake or false documents, but they do express, you know, the the juice of a diploma, for which many people sacrifice good years, maybe their best years in life, in order to get a damn diploma, which is what, it has some signatures, and often these diplomas actually don't tell a lot of truth. In fact, yes, you accepted to be a camel in an educational system, and after a number of years of suffering, you get this reward, the diploma, which entitles you to certain privileges, but certain rights. He created such a diploma for Alberto Giacometti, the greatest Swiss philosopher, who probably didn't have one. He created one for Charles Eames. As I said, Charles Eames, when he had troubles to receive a teaching position in a university in the United States, he asked Saul Steinberg to please make a diploma for me, and he did. And we are going to see later a picture of Charles Eames looking towards the product of the invitation, meaning the diploma that Saul Steinberg created for him. He also made one for Le Corbusier. I had it in a book which I had with the works of Saul Steinberg, but I couldn't find it for today on the web, although I searched for it. Here is Charles Eames. The picture is not very good, but you can still see the smile and the little, how do you call them? Gros pizze and ombrage that Charles Eames, he's looking, smilingly towards that fictional work, the fictional diploma. And in a way, most diplomas are just that, fictional works. As Bernard Tschumi said, form follows fiction. They are in good measure actually fictional works. Look at this, they're all unreal. It's the theatrics of creating a good impression. That lots of signatures, different, different acknowledgements of your unbelievable performance. Look at those signatures, which become totally irrelevant in time. Who are those people who, so proudly signed your diploma? I like these diplomas by Saul Steinberg. He created a whole series of them. Yeah, look at this. It's really about the superfluity of bureaucracy, which claims that the whole world is, supported by it, but it's not so. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. All these papers, that you are a camel for 6 years or so. You struggle and struggle and struggle, and later on nobody asks you about this. Nobody wants to see your beloved diploma. False documents. He created a whole series of fake documents or false documents. This is his own, I guess he worked on a passport. Was it his own passport? I think in the center here vertically, this is amplified. It's zoomed in, is the word Romania. You see the letters. And look at how many signatures, for God's sake, and stamp and God, Pagină rezervată pentru vize, page réservé pour les visas. Yeah, but these are the documents which of what is official. Another one, another fake document. I really find them amusing. And I did struggle with such documents. One day I could tell you a whole afternoon about my troubles with this. One day I even ended in some kind of a prison in Germany because I had problems with my passport, because I didn't have an entrance visa in the States. in Germany. So they abuse me. You know, it's incredible. You know, I mean, look at his signature. Look at this. It's beautiful. I mean, you know, he drew this, you know, himself. Saul Steinberg, the man born in Râmnicu Sărat. He drew it. Just this, the beginning of this unreadable word or words was done by him. No, in his own way, he had genius, Saul Steinberg. He did. He's persiflating, of course. He's persiflating bureaucracy and the need for bureaucracy. Because it's all about appearances, really. It's not real. Look, it's not real. You can't read one single word in all that tightly, you know, squeezed text. Charles Sims, we saw this looking at the diploma, and he laughed it that, you know, the former citizen of Râmnicu Sărat created for him. You probably know of Charles Sims, a great promoter of modernist design and architecture. Another fake document, which, you know, appears convincing through its intricacies. Now, some covers of the New Yorker, for many years, he had this privilege, which he earned, to create the drawing, the original drawing, on the cover page of this famous New York magazine, the New Yorker. You know, and I don't know. I mean, it is a commentary in a way on the vastness of the world. You know, it starts with a particular street or avenue in New York City, and then it goes all the way over America and arrives at the Pacific Ocean, because New York is actually at the Atlantic Ocean. And you know, this is mid-America, Kansas City, some stone, some whatever, Las Vegas is here. And what is here? Japan, over the Pacific Ocean is Japan. So I like these drawings because in their humorous way, they tell you something about the oneness of the world. The New Yorker, 1976, price 75 cents. At that time, 75 cents was not so little. Drawings. The man who was a writer, but who drew. He deserves to be known, and you can find a lot of his works, his drawings on the web. Here he is. A strange position with his right leg there. I don't know if I could do something like this. That shows an yogi's ability. But he was a dreamer, of course, you know, trying to live in this world. He loved cats. I have seen other pictures with him with cats. Hello, Mr. I almost felt like saying Mr. Saul Steinberg. Sometimes I have some difficulties with his name, because there was also a famous North American writer, Steinbeck, but he is Steinberg. So we have Steinbeck, the famous North American writer, and we have Steinberg, the man born in Râmnicu Sărat, and staring at us now from the gallery in Milan through his drawing. He studied there, but you know, most of his sketches are based on the dynamics of some kind of a you know, conflict. You know, like here two people, you know, or here a man and a woman, you know, here two men, you know, each one creating an arabesque with his or her discourse. You know, it's essentially, it's about the well-known misunderstandings between people. Or here, you know, look at this man producing music and look what he generates visually. Or here, this man, I guess, playing the piano, and the piano becomes what you look at here. The Labyrinth, Steinberg. I love labyrinths, it's true. Anyway, he had many exhibitions, and I even saw a picture where he was in the same room with Jean-Paul Sartre, for probably. So he, you know, he became part of an artistic, intellectual elite. And why? Because he was very creative. That's why. In his own medium, in his own way, he was. Look at this, a man and a lady, you know, again, you know, having a discussion, but you know, the understanding is still a little bit hard to contemplate between the two. And I think the last picture, or one of the last, is where there is some kind of a, if we can call it a dialogue between a lady and a dog. Drawing is a way of reasoning on paper. As I told you, he was a philosopher. He was reasoning on paper through drawing. Drawing is a way of reasoning on paper. Saul Steinberg. And this is an amusing drawing. You see here, you know, this incredibly well-armed, equipped knight. But look what he's fighting against. You know, I mean, now he did have a very special sense of humor, I think, Saul Steinberg. He did. Maybe he had even his sarcasm or his pessimism or his questioning about, you know, the hardcore capitalism of the United States. This drawing seems to suggest something in this sense, maybe a little bit cryptically. Here we have, you know, two armies, you know, let's say the Republicans and the liberals, the Democrats. A man generating a labyrinth through his talk. Maybe sometimes I do the same. Yeah. No, I think you as students in architecture know a lot about this short word, no. But this no this no, N-O, is actually containing much more ample discourse. But in essence, it is a no, you know, which could have been whispered or said loudly, as it is, a no. No, sir, no, you cannot do this. You are not allowed to do this. No, no. Here is another discourse which is very, you know, elaborate and complex and with incredible intricacies. The man is dreaming, of course, and other, I don't know, things by Saul Steinberg. Here is an architectural drawing. I could have chosen to show architectural drawings by him because there are, but anyway, here is some kind of a so-called architectural drawing, but it's still dreamy. Although the man graduated from actually a good architecture school in Italy. Stops for the night. The highways. He was a contemplator. He contemplated the world from, you know, from afar. From far below or from far above, Citibank. And I think this is, now we are approaching the end, maybe two more images. Again, we see some kind of I forgot, this is the conflict or the discussion between Sardinia and Paris. I don't know exactly what it's based on, maybe on some kind of a political event. Anyway, and now I think this is the last image. It amused me, you know, because you have the beast on the left, you know, staring at the master, the lady, and the lady, you know, produces her, you know, discourse in that way, visualized, and the dog or the little beast is using a different kind of discourse. Do they understand each other? Well, approximately or imperfectly.